So, in the crazy world of beat-em-ups, you're probably wondering why we are starting with this little arcade title. Well, Kung Fu Master, which is loosely based on the Jackie Chan 1984 classic Wheels on Meals, and is also heavily inspired by Bruce Lee's Game of Death, is essentially the first beat-em-up that was ever created. The man behind this game is none other than Takashi Nishiyama, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it should, because this is the man who actually inspired developers like Shigeru Miyamoto to create Super Mario Bros. And Zelda 2 like they were. He was also responsible for directing the original Street Fighter in 1987 and is essentially the father of Ken and Ryu's famous technique, the Hadoken. Going back and playing this title was a bit frustrating at first, but I did grow up with different variations of this game, so I adjusted pretty quickly, and I gotta say, its controls, pretty simple, but very responsive. You can still have fun with an older title like this, and, well, there's honestly a lot of charm on every floor. There's dangers, there's new enemies, just ever-swarming enemies, and pretty decently challenging bosses, too. So, give it a shot if you ever get the chance to play this if you're watching this video right now. Because the reason why a game like this is so tough is because it was built for the arcades. And, well, they don't call them quarter munchers for nothing. This is how arcades made their money, was by making machines that were really tough. And, well, if you're ever a fan of fighting games, especially Capcom fighters, you know exactly how tough those final bosses can actually be. Try this game out regardless. At the end of the day, every game and genre starts somewhere. We must never forget the foundations and basics of these early games, because without them, we wouldn't have the beat-em-ups that we have today and that we know and love. Okay, so yeah, we just went from a small history lesson to now a brutal back alley beating. Battletoad and Double Dragon is an unrelenting barrage of BS and heartbreak, and honestly, it'd make you feel like you're in a marriage or something. Don't get me wrong, the Super Nintendo version of the game is absolutely amazing, from its sprite work, its characters, the enemies, the background design is absolutely phenomenal, and the music by the ever-legendary David Wise will give you that pump you need in the gym, or another kind of pump that you don't want people seeing in public. But this game is brutal in a way that's actually pretty unfair. Much like a lot of Battletoad and Double Dragon titles, well, you see, this game plays more like a Battletoad game, and it shows with the characters and enemies you come across, and the Lee brothers just seem to be along for the ride. And the game also wants you to know that it's gonna be fucking you in the ass with no lube, because, well, you only get 3 continues and no password system at all to help you out. And honestly, the 2-player mode is even worse, because if one character loses all their lives, both players then get kicked back to the beginning of the level. So a design like this makes 0 sense, because the game gives you some bonkers design for the levels, and, well, God, it just... For real, this game is a pain in the ass to play, and you'll see what I mean if you do play it, because if you want to, and you have a Nintendo Switch Online account, the game does exist in the Super Nintendo library that's on there, but, man, I don't know why me and my best friend played this as much as we did. Maybe we enjoyed the challenge. Maybe it was the fact that this game, not just being a beat-em-up, but it was kind of a mashup of different other genres at times, but I don't know, maybe it was the music, maybe it was the cool graphics, maybe it was just because when we had games as kids, we worked hard to beat them or do the best we could because, you know, games were expensive and we weren't buying them as kids, our parents were. Either way, I don't know. You may want to go it alone solo and drop the Ultimate Team and having a partner for this game, because you're going to get burned faster than Joe Pesci did during Home Alone with that whole flamethrower incident. This game is going to be incredibly rough for virtually anybody to play 2 players, and the way they have it set, it's just, the whole game is honestly against you. The Ninja Saviors, Return of the Warriors, is one of the most 90s video game titles ever of all time. And I thought this would be, well, a cool Saturday morning cartoon or a badass anime with a name like that. But, well, here we are, and we have a full-on remake of the original Super Nintendo version, and it's absolutely amazing. The game's been overhauled completely, and the sprite work in this game is fantastic. One of the reasons I guess I'm drawn to devs like Tango Project and others who work on games like Vengeful Guardian Moonrider is because it takes it back to a time when I was a kid, and sprite-based work was all the rage. Instead of now, everyone's raging at game companies for them to make everything look as real as possible. We used to be a proper society. One of the added bonuses I really did enjoy for this remake is that aside from the 3 main returning characters, 2 more have also been added for this game. And, well, the characters are all fantastic because they all have different styles, and, well, you have to get used to them because they all play extremely different. And to be honest, I think that's great. Some games, you kind of play the same characters in a beat 'em up, and they do feel somewhat the same. Sometimes there's a little bit more difference to them. But I think this game really goes the distance for that to make them feel all extremely different. One of the added bonuses that I really loved for this remake is that aside from the returning main 3 characters, 2 more have also been added as well. The characters are fantastic because they all have different styles, and you really have to get used to them because they all play extremely different. And I think this is one of the best beat 'em up games to really show that off. I mean, I don't have any real comparison, but I just feel that for all the beat 'em ups I've played in my life, this one, they all do feel really drastically different, and in honestly, all the right ways. Kunoichi is the character with speed and aerial attacks, but she's also a pretty balanced character to choose, and probably the one that a lot of people are going to play the game with, because some of these characters, well, for later levels, they do get a little bit difficult, and she's always just been the best for me, plus, I think she looks the coolest out of them all. Ninja is... yeah, that's his name, it's Ninja. He's all about nunchucks and grappling, and despite his very low agility and not being able to jump, like, legit, he cannot jump at all, he's got good range and tosses enemies around with ease like you're throwing your little brother down a flight of stairs to replicate something you saw in a wrestling match. Kamitachi is pure speed and gets around pretty easily and strikes fast with his bladed arms, and his design almost feels like something out of Killer Instinct. His only downside is he really cannot grab enemies, and I don't think his special attacks are that good, or at least maybe I just didn't find a good use for them, but they felt, well... I felt they left me open and I got attacked a lot from using his special abilities, so maybe he's not for everyone. I'm sure I was probably using him wrong, but he just doesn't seem like a great character overall. Raiden is just a massive mech with mode change options and can fly, and, well, he's the hardest hitting in the game, but due to some enemies, raw strength may not be what you need, as this guy's just a big target, which... it just means you're the shiny item that some Karen is trying to grab at a Christmas rush. Again, like this, he's cool, don't get me wrong, but ultimately better saved for 2-player mode because by himself, he's just one big open target. And finally, there's Yasuke, who is a very strange character. By far the shortest and weakest of the team, and actually has, I think, worse mobility than Ninja himself. But she's essentially the Doc Ock of the ninja world, and she can get herself airborne and juggle enemies, and, well, that's pretty cool that she can do that with the arms. Overall, I think this is a character that is better suited for the 2-player aspect of this game, which, well, that's one of the gameplay improvements of this, is the fact that there is a 2-player mode to this game now, and I think this is one of the best things they could have done, because I feel beat 'em ups should all have a second player option. So yeah, they did a really good job with this, and honestly, there's just so much to love, and I can't really say anything bad about this game. It looks well, it plays fantastic, the music is made with such love in this, and it gives you that old school gaming experience you had as a kid just by powering up the game and watching that opening cutscene and just having fun. Also, don't skip out on the original because it still stands strong on its own, but this remake is exactly how you would do a remake from that era. They did it right, they used sprite work, and it doesn't get any better than that. Now, if you wanted to get into martial arts as a kid in the 90s, 3 things got you into it: Street Fighter, TMNT, and of course, Power Rangers. You'd think I'd add Mortal Kombat into that, but most kids I met who loved Mortal Kombat just wanted to rip other kids' spines out on the school playground. And in hindsight, was probably a red flag. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is the first in a very long line of early year Power Ranger titles. It was released on various platforms like the Genesis, the Game Gear, and the Game Boy, just to name a few, all using the same cover art, and, well, they're not the same game. In fact, they're all vastly different games. This one is kinda a standard beat 'em up, where it's got a little bit of platforming to it as well, and you control up to 5 Rangers. Yes, I said 5 because for whatever reason, even though he had already debuted at this point, the Green Ranger was not in the game because apparently the devs didn't like fun. Playing as each unmorphed Ranger is alright, because they all look unique and they all fight, well, very much like they do in the show. Although, there doesn't seem to be anything about speed, strength, or health because everyone's health bar is the same, and every putty gets defeated essentially in the same amount of hits. So really just play as whoever you like if they're your favorite, because there's really no difference. The problem is, when you morph, everyone is just a palette swap and jacked, even the girls. Now, there's nothing wrong with buff girls because, you know, one big boss loves his beefy women, but essentially, even with their various weapons, some have the same animation almost. I don't know. I think this was kind of a little bit of a lazy design, given the fact that Natsume, the team that made this, is actually a pretty good company when it comes to making really well detailed characters. So maybe it was a budgetary thing or something, but I think they could have made the Rangers look, well, not all the same. Level designs were alright, the boss battles were neat, but the game being one player, I think, hurt this, as well as maybe not giving us more variety in the putties you come across, and also virtually no unlockables either, and combat was just very super basic with no power move that would drain your health like in other beat 'em up games. Yes, you would get a bomb that you would find throughout the level, but ultimately it didn't really mean that much. It's as basic as a dry turkey sandwich. You know what you're gonna get, but you're still a bit disappointed. There is a Zord battle you get to do, but there's only 2 of them, and, well, that's it. Where I think this game should have had at least a Zord fight at the end of every level once you beat the monsters, well, much like what happens in the show, because that's how it always goes. Monster of the Week shows up, they fight them, they beat them, they grow strong, they beat them again, and the day is saved, and I guess they just didn't have room to do it with this game, perhaps? I will admit, as fun as this is to revisit, and my nostalgia comes from me and my best friend just cracking hardcore on this game when we were kids and even into our teens and 20s, I even did a review on this 13 years ago here on the channel, as it was my second review, and God, I don't want to go back and look at that, because honestly, I'm sure it was about as meh as this game is. You can play this title if you want, but you'll probably have more fun watching the OG series or playing the Super Nintendo Power Rangers the movie game, which is another beat 'em up that we'll cover here on the channel in the future. Honestly, it's a lot more fun, it's 2 players, and there's an actual challenge to the levels within the game. But this entry, well, let me tell you guys, it definitely ain't morphin' time, that's for sure. Hey guys, thanks for watching. As always, when you comment on one of my videos, it helps out big time, and also helps by giving a thumbs up and making that video and the channel be seen itself, and it also makes me know what you guys want to see here on the channel. Make sure to follow me on all my socials to keep up on my newest videos, and also on Twitch, I stream there, so the links are all down below in the description. Appreciate it, guys. Until the next time, be safe and have a good one.